Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Great Leadership. My guest today, Mike Michalowicz. He's the best-selling author of numerous books, including Profit First, The Pumpkin Plan, and a brand new book that I have sitting next to me called All In: How Great Leaders Build Unstoppable Teams. And today we're going to be going over a couple different things. First, what it means to be an all-in leader. We're going to be going over the relationship between A, B, and C players, which I think is quite fascinating. We'll look at a model that Mike came up with called FASO, Fit, Ability, Safety, and Ownership, what that means, what that looks like. We'll talk about, I think, a little bit of a counterintuitive concept, which you have in the book called hire slow and fire slower, which most people think of the exact opposite. And then if we have time, we'll get into the 3 qualities to look for in employees. And then the leader's toolkit section at the very end, we'll get into why you are telling everybody to stop doing employee interviews and to shift to something else called workshops instead. So with all that being said, Mike, thank you and welcome to the show.
Jacob, it's a joy to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So it's funny because my wife actually read what year did the Pumpkin Plan come out?
Oh, that's probably 12 years ago. So I'd say 2011, 20.
Yeah, my wife used to work for a Fortune 100 company. She was running a lot of social media and customer experience stuff there. And then when she got laid off, she was trying to figure out what should she do. And I encouraged her to get into the speaking and the content business. And one of the books that she actually read at the time was The Pumpkin Plan, and she had it filled with a bunch of notes and Post-its in there. So more than a decade later, now you're on the podcast. Small world.
Yeah, wow. It took a long time, but I got here.
Yeah, it did.
Big shout out to your wife. I appreciate her reading that.
Yeah. So give me a little bit of background information about how you got to where you are. You've written, obviously, several books. You're an entrepreneur. You've started and are involved with several businesses. You've sold several businesses.
Yeah.
How did you get to this point? Did you ever have a traditional corporate full-time job like the rest of us?
I did for one short period. It was less than a year. It was 11 months because a corporation bought one of my companies. So I became a corporate guy. It was part of the deal, and I got fired. I sucked at it.
You got fired?
And fired, yeah. Like causal termination, meaning you did something that's not right. And the funny thing was, I was in the evenings talking with college students about running their own business. And they said, you can't do that. You have to be all in on filling in the blank here.
So funny. That's why you got fired, for helping college students in your spare time?
Yeah. Specifically, yeah. But I'll never forget. I spoke at Boston College, and they said, you're terminated for this. Listen, I wasn't a good fit. I should have been fired 6 months prior, or I should have left on my own accord. I hated that job. It was a horrible experience. They weren't caring for the person. They were caring about filling in the blank. And it was tough to see that environment, how it affected so many of my colleagues that were part of this acquisition. So how I got to where I am today, I never aspired to be an entrepreneur.
Nobody does.
One day went out for drinks for working for a small local business after college, saying, gosh, I could run my own business, and I, liquid courage, started a company and didn't know what I was doing, but fear was a great motivator to get up and just work and grind. Fast forward to more modern times, some good fortunes of building and selling companies. Now I realize the greater fortune of failing a lot. I mean, I started 10 businesses as an angel investor.
Wow.
Totally arbitrary, didn't know what I was doing. All these businesses were collapsing. And it triggered me first through depression, but after that, investigating what I don't know about entrepreneurship. I decided to become an author because everything I'm writing about is actually what I need to understand for myself. I know very little bit about entrepreneurship. I know more today than I did before, but I kind of have this beginner's mind. I got to learn so much more. Yeah. When I find something that works, I own multiple businesses now. When I find something that works for my businesses, then I'm like, this is a system I got to share with other folks. And that's what I do. So I've written many business books, sharing the best of what I've discovered for myself and working with other companies, deploying them, with them too.
So let's jump into some of the concepts from the new book. Obviously, the book is called All In. What does it actually mean to be an all-in leader? Because as you talk about in the book, and as I'm sure a lot of people tell you, they'll say, yeah, I'm an all-in leader. I care about my team. I love my team. I support them. I'm there for them. Is that all it takes?
Yeah, that's not all it takes by any stretch. But it's definitely a good start. And we got to be careful about placating ourselves by saying the words. Are we actually acting that way? So, there's a saying, don't trust people's words, trust their actions. And the measurement is, do you really know the entire makeup of your colleagues, not just in their
Mm.
work environment, but what they're willing to share about their life environment, about their world, what's important to them? I'll tell you the big realization I had here, and I think what started to define for me when all in leader is, my second company was in computer forensics, computer crime investigation. And I remember busily sitting in my office one day and I'm running all these numbers and the light bulb hit. Like, my gosh, if we do X, Y, and Z, we can achieve $10 million in revenue this year, which for me, I'd never grown a company that size up to that point. So I called my colleagues together. I had 30 employees at our company. It was brick and mortar. And we had like this area where we'd have our stand-up meetings, our huddles, and there was a whiteboard there. And before they came in bubble letters, I put 10 million real big. I took a sticky note, one of those oversized posted board sticky notes that can cover it, and I covered up the 10 million, queued up the music in the background to get everyone pumped up. It was Eye of the Tiger, of course. And everyone walked in, and I said, I did some nonsense speech. And after a minute or two, I said, I got the big reveal. I run the numbers. There's no question. This is the year we're doing, wait for it, $10 million in revenue. Big announcement. I ripped the post-it off, and there was silence. There was no like applause, no standing ovation, no one crying in the audience. It was silence. And I'm like, don't you guys get it? And they're like, yeah, it sounds good. And people shuffled back to their room. My trusted, awesome colleague at the time, her name was Patty Zanelli. She was my personal assistant. She came up to me. She says, Mike, if we achieve $10 million in revenue, you get the new house. You get the new car. Why do we care? What about our dreams? And it became this whole perspective like, oh my God, the vision of a company is the dream or vision of the owner or the leaders. It's not the collective dream. It's an individual's dream. And we're just imploring it upon other people. What I started to do, and this started kind of my understanding, and it took me years to start grasping this, is you, Jacob, have dreams and visions for yourself. I have dreams and visions. And everyone we work with has dreams and visions for themselves. And we can't categorize them as significant or not. It's up to that person. So someone wants to learn to play guitar. Another person wants to buy a house. They're all extremely important. What I did and do now is I prioritize the achievement of my colleagues' dreams as much as the company's dreams. Now we're walking arm in arm. And listen, the role of a company or a leader is not to make that dream a reality. I don't go out and buy a house. It's not Make-A-Wish Foundation. And that's a great organization, by the way, but what this is showing the importance of someone achieving a dream. There's also significance in the journey itself. A friend of mine gave me the best analogy. I like football. When the Super Bowl is played, the ref doesn't flip the coin and say, hey, whoever wins the coin toss here just wins the game. Let's skip the game because there could be injury. The whole thing is the competition that leads to the final result. The journey matters. So if I had the means to buy a house for someone, that's a wonderful gift, but there's no sense of accomplishment in it. There's no continuance of their journey.
Yeah.
So my job is not to do, learn guitar for them. It's to give them a pathway to get there. It's to remind them how important it is. And if I can block and tackle a little bit, changing work schedules and stuff, of course I will. If I keep the dream in front of them, keep reminding them of the importance, and we're marching toward that through reciprocity, they'll keep the corporate dream, my dream, in front of me, in front of us.
Hey, really quick, sorry to interrupt you, but did you know that 96% of the people who watch videos on this channel are not subscribed? Do me a favor, subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you can get notified when more videos just like this one are released. And now let's get back to the content. It's interesting because it's not how business used to be done, right? I mean, like if I were to think back 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, even probably up until the 90s, business, and I'm thinking about, my dad who still works and he's in his early mid 70s. Business was always primarily about, there's something that I can do. I'll come do it at your company and you pay me. And then what I do with the money, how I fulfill my dream, what I do with all of that is just kind of up to me. And I think a lot of people were, for the most part, that was the standard, right? And if you look at today's world now, it's so different. We talk about the blurring of work and life, but it's not just a blurring in terms of where you work and how you work, but it's almost it's a mental and psychological blurring too, where to your point, a lot of leaders are having to now get a better sense of what do my employees care about? What do they value? Where do they want to be? Like, what are their aspirations, their fears, their hopes, their dreams? Why is that relevant? I mean, why can't you as a leader of a company just say, hey, we're going to make $10 million. If we get to that goal, everybody's going to get 100 grand.
Bonus, yeah.
Yeah, why do you need as a leader to know these things about your people? Because it seems we're not trained on this, right? When you go to business school, nobody
No.
teaches you like, hey, this is how you learn about the dreams of your people. It's business acumen. It's purely competence based. So what's the
Yeah.
argument for going down this other path of, I guess you can call it a little bit more human leadership?
Yeah. It's like saying, hey, I want you to go out and compete. And if you get the winning trophy, I'm getting the trophy. And hey, listen, you'll get acknowledged you got the trophy or helped us get, but it's going to be my trophy. There is an association of significance with it. So what's interesting is my research in the motivation of money is money in general is anything but a motivator. It's a demotivator. And what I mean by this is if I am not being compensated the way I expect to be compensated and it's less, I feel demotivated. If I'm paid more than I believe I'm worth, I will adjust my perception of myself to that level very quickly and say, actually, this is my worth. Um, and it can be a demotivator. I'll say, why didn't it happen sooner? So money, and you probably experienced this if you've ever been paid more or a big bonus, hey, we want more from you. That it's not sustainable. A few weeks of okay, but there just comes this new kind of homeostasis. The old model for business was a fill in the blank. I think what your father experienced and my father too, and me for so long is there's a business. Here's the role that needs filled in. Let's plug someone in there. Do your job, go home. Why this new approach, which I think should have always existed, is a better approach is we're showing significance in the individual's personal accomplishments, and there's significance in that. And when that becomes important to the leader of the organization, they're seeing that you see them as greater than filling in a blank and winning a trophy for you. We're helping win their trophy too.
Hmm.
And reciprocity kicks in. When you care for me and my success, I'll care for your success. One of my favorite examples that we experienced in our company, my personal assistant for a while, her name was Lisa, and it really wasn't her gift to do what she was doing, but she was working at it.
Okay.
When I was learning from her about her life and her desires, she's like, my real life's missions, I want to be a firefighter. She volunteered.
Wow.
So I want to be a professional firefighter. We don't get her the job, but now it's like, okay, I got block and tackle. This person wants to be a firefighter. And we gave her the flexibility to interview. We supported her. We actually helped in certain situations. You won't be surprised. Her work performance increased because now it's reciprocity. Like we're caring for this outcome and she's making an effort to kind of pay us back. But the conclusion of the story is fascinating. She got a job we're in New Jersey. She got a job in Georgia at an airport as a professional firefighter. 6 months, and she moved on. She helped us train and prepare the new person that filled her role enthusiastically. But the part that blew me away was 6 months later, there's a call, and it's Lisa, and she says, hey, I know the corporate retreat. We do an annual getaway retreats coming up. She goes, I left, so I couldn't be there, but I still want to come. Is it okay if I visit? I will pay my own way. I'll pay for everything. I just want to be there with you guys and give back what I learned through this experience. Sure enough, Lisa was there for 3-4 days on the retreat, contributing to her company and is no longer an employee here. And I think what it points to is we cared so much about her success, genuinely, that she genuinely cared about our success even beyond her employment.
Yeah, it's an interesting story. It reminds me, well, kind of two questions on there. One, I was going to ask you if equity is just enough. Like, can't you just give people ownership stake in the business?
Yeah.
And the second thing that came to mind, do you know who John Wooden is?
Yeah, the basketball coach.
Yeah. So he had, one of the things that made him so successful is he was very known for getting to know his players outside of basketball.
Yes.
He'd frequently have dinners with them. He would talk to them about their personal lives, what's going on at home with their families. And he knew his ball player. And it's one of the things I always tell leaders is get to know your employees as more than just workers, but get to know them as human beings. And I think there is a lot of value on that. But I can see also why a lot of leaders would push back on that and say it's too much, especially if you're in a mid-sized company or a larger company where maybe you have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 plus employees, or you're the CEO of an organization. So, how do you scale that, first of all?
Yeah.
And second of all, what about equity? Can't you just
Yeah.
tell people that you appreciate them, like genuinely appreciate them, tell them that you care about them, that they're valuable members of the team, treat them well, compensate them well, give them equity? Why specifically get into the piece about knowing their dreams and aspirations and personal goals? Like, shouldn't that just be up to them to achieve those in their own time, or to tell them to you if they want to tell them to you?
No, because that may not naturally come out. We're so wired historically on what employment is in the context of it. Um, Dreams does not necessarily mean personal. I think we do need to give our colleagues the freedom to explore what they want to explore, to share what they want to share, and to keep private what they want to keep private. But I also think that many of us in the employment role have forgotten about how to envision a future and dream. So I'll give a story that speaks to this because it's a large company, but in the janitorial space, there's a company called Jancoa
Mhm.
in the Cleveland area. They have 600 janitors. I included Mary Miller is the co-founder of the organization. I included the story. And they started a program they call Dream Engineering.
Okay.
And if you want to really explore this, All In touches on it, but there's a book called The Dream Manager by Matthew Kelly that's really an excellent study on this subject. Here's what Jan Koa did. What Mary Miller first said to me, I'll never forget this. I just started the call. I said, "So tell me about this dream engineering program." She goes, "Mike, I've never met a janitor who dreamed one day I'll be a janitor." She's like, "Let's start off with that." And if we look at all the roles we have in our organization, often what we're providing is not representative of what someone aspired to as children. I didn't one day want to be an administrative assistant or whatever it may be necessarily. But we all started dreaming from very early on of one day I'll experience this, have this, whatever it may be. So what Jan Koa does is it sits down and says, tell us about those dreams. And sometimes you got to teach people. It's too big to grasp onto. So a common response that's a no response is, my dream is to win the lottery.
Yeah.
Oh, great. What would you do if you won the lottery? And that's where you start pushing the exploration. And what Jankoa does is they break into small vision huddles or dream huddles once a week. A small group of maybe 5 to 10 people sit down and say, "How you doing on your dreams? How are you doing?" One guy, I actually interviewed him. He said, "One day I want to learn how to read and write." He didn't know how to. And he said, "I have my first ever granddaughter. I want to read her a bedtime story."
Hmm.
Get a little emotional over it. And the team said, "Okay, we're going to make this happen." And they got him classes. One janitor said, "I'll work your shift because that's when the classes are," and covered for him for months. And sure enough, he learned how to read and write, and he read her that bedtime story. It became a victory, of course, for him, but for the whole group.
Yeah.
So everyone's invested in each other's dreams. So as a large organization, it's not the leader necessarily going person by person to 150 people. It's deploying these micro groups that can work together um, and speak and be supportive of each other. It is putting some structure in place. To the other question or observation about equity, can't you just give people equity? Here was a fascinating finding. Equity, in many cases, is not resulting in more ownership or more commitments, it's resulting in the reverse. It's resulting in entitlement. So I studied ESOPs and these different programs.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened is, Jay would say, I work for your company, and you say, "Hey, Mike, you're really loyal. I'm going to give you 5% of the business." Now I'm like, I own 5% of the business. Where's my 5% profit? You owe me. It becomes the belief now that I'm an owner. So some ESOPs are done very well, but they include what's called psychological ownership. And that's the key we need to deploy. Psychological ownership is the sensation of ownership. Legal ownership is just a contract. And it doesn't mean you feel like you own it. I own stock in Ford. I've driven by Ford factories. I don't look at it and say, "Oh, part of that building's mine. Let's go." No, I'm like,
Show up at the door and be like, "All right, where's my office?"
Yeah, exactly. I own 100 shares. No, I expect money because I've taken risk. So legal ownership can trigger entitlement. Psychological ownership is different. Psychological ownership is where we feel it's part of us. It becomes part of our identity. So the best example I can use is with cars. If you ever rent a car, you don't feel psychological ownership. So the way you drive that car is probably different than you do your own car. I admittedly am much more aggressive on a rental car. I'll jam on the brakes as the light turns red, and I'll punch it the second it turns green just to see what that little Prius can do. My own car, though, I'll pat the dashboard
Yeah.
and good.
Sing to
But
it, tuck it in.
sing to it, yeah. You got this, girl. But here's why this happens. There's three elements that invoke psychological ownership, and as leaders, we can deploy this with our colleagues. First is control. When you have an authority over something, you start feeling that you own it. So I can park my car where I want to park it. I can start it when I want to start it and drive it when I want to drive it. That authority over it starts giving me a sense of ownership. What we need to do is start releasing the control of someone, assigning responsibilities. You have to comply with, and if you fail, you'll be in trouble. If you succeed, maybe get a bonus. Instead, assign outcomes. What do we agree you want to achieve in this role? How do you picture it happening? What's your thoughts on achieving this goal that we've collectively set? Now you have control over the pathway and a sense of authority. It actually makes you own the position more. The second part is personalization. My car, I can program the radio stations to my stations. I can put a bumper sticker on it, those type of things. When I can personalize it, I have a sense of more ownership. So in a role, how can that person personalize it? How do they want to go about it? Can they give it nicknames? Our accounting system, we don't call it QuickBooks accounting. We call it Kelsey's accounting system because she's the one overseeing it. It has a sense of personalization. The last component is intimate knowledge. The more we understand something, the more comprehensive knowledge we have, the more it feels like it's ours. So an analogy here is with the car is I know where all the little buttons are, the creaks and crunches, all the things it does. I know intimately. The rental car, I don't even know how to work their program, the radio stations, let alone sync it up with Bluetooth.
Yeah.
So the more detailed knowledge I have, the more I sense I possess it.
Okay.
So the summary here is we want to do those three elements with our colleagues, and they'll feel like ownership. And when they feel that ownership, they exert themselves. And it's ironically not legal ownership that's necessary.
Okay. Yeah. And I love that concept of psychological ownership as well. I want to shift gears a little bit to jump into your FASL model. But even before we jump into that, I wanted to share a LinkedIn poll survey that I did. Now, I was really curious to get your thoughts on this. And it's still running. I started this just one day ago, but it's already got around 750 people. So it's not a scientific study, but a representative of my LinkedIn community. And the question that I asked everybody is: would you rather work for a leader who has high emotional intelligence but low competence, or high competence but low emotional intelligence? And 70% of the people said that they would rather work for a leader who has high emotional intelligence and lower competence than a high competence and lower emotional intelligence. So the vast majority of people prefer the connection with their leader, 70%, over working for a competent leader. And I was actually a little bit surprised by this. Now, I was curious to get your thoughts on this because to me, if you work for somebody who's highly competent, now, this doesn't mean that they have no emotional intelligence. They just have lower emotional intelligence. But if you work for somebody who's highly competent, you're probably going to learn more. You're going to observe more.
Sure.
And, that to me, and I feel like part of the conversation in today's business world is we forget and we've lost the competence, right? It's kind of like taking a hit, so to speak, the idea of hard work ethic, competence. And we shifted so much to the emotional side, which I'm not opposed to. I mean, I just wrote a book on leading with vulnerability, so I'm all for it. But I'm just very surprised that so many people would rather have a connection with a leader, which to me would sacrifice your long-term progress because you're not working for somebody who's as competent, versus people who would say, I'd rather work for a leader who's amazing, but maybe we don't have that strong sense of connection because that's going to be better for me in the long run. What do you think of that?
Yeah. I'm not that surprised that people are answering that way because of what's happening in the work environment. We're losing the tactile experience. Um, what's interesting with the COVID pandemic specifically is what was desirable in the past is now expected. So, I wanted work flexibility. I expect it. I wanted to work remotely. I expect it now. But what happens, the trade-off is we're losing the tactile, the human experience. Those water cooler moments. I remember just discussing water cooler moments with someone, and we're debating what's the benefit of it. Was it brainstorming business thoughts? And what we concluded was there's a human connection there.
Hmm.
The significance of the water coolers, you and I talk about the kids or the baseball game last night or whatever it is, but we're sharing stories. And when we start sharing stories, we start building a trust level, a greater bond. So the more we share with each other, inside or particularly outside of business discussions, we start getting this holistic trust built.
Yeah.
Well, now we're losing that. We don't have the water cooler moments. And it's not just happening in the business environment. This is happening like globally. Like I don't see my friends as much because I can just text them real quick. It's very asynchronous. So I wonder if the compulsion toward I want someone who has a high EQ is because I need connection.
Hmm.
And maybe we don't even realize that, but we need connection. And I see some of the best businesses now, the ones where the employees are the most engaged, where they are performing at the highest levels, is these businesses are taking a responsibility in part for the tactile experience. They're building human connection in the business and focusing on that.
Yeah.
There was a study that came out of the UK saying in the knowledge worker space, and that's the space I work in, that the average person, regardless of the hours worked per day, produces at 3.2 hours. So if I work a 5-hour day or a 10-hour day or a 4-hour day, the output is 3.2 hours. And the idea is we can only do so much before our batteries drain and we need to recharge. The greatest recharging is human connection. I can focus and drive on this, the average person, for so long before, gosh, I need a release and I need people around me. So the businesses that are offering that are actually recharging their employees for those work pushes.
Yeah.
That's my perspective. I'm not saying that's the reason, but that's why I think people are leaning that way.
And it's interesting when you think about trust too, because I think a lot of people assume that trust is just a function of how long you know somebody, but we actually have some good friends that we've known for several years, not many years, not more than 5 years, who've become probably our best friends. And
Yeah.
so our level of trust isn't just a function of how long we've known each other, but it's how much time we spend together and what we share with each other.
Yes.
Because myself and this other person, we both acknowledge that there are people that we've known for 20, 30 plus years that even though we've known them longer, we don't have that same level of trust as we do with each other, even though we've known each other for a far shorter period of time, but we spend a lot more time with each other and we share a lot more with each other. So speaking of trust, I think that's kind of an interesting thing for people to remember, that it's not just about how long you've known somebody or how long you've worked with somebody, because you can work with somebody for many years and not know them, or you can know somebody in your personal life for many years, but never truly trust them.
I think one of the great indicators to look for is what I call the remember whens. When you see people having a dialogue and a core element of their conversation is, oh, remember when,
Yeah.
that is a callback to something in the past. And that's a strengthening of that thread of connection. So to your point, the remember whens don't happen just because we've been connected for a certain period of time. It's the frequency within that length of time. Do we do activities together? The variety of activity is important too. And I think smart business leaders are doing this. It's not do the exact same process over and over and do the same thing every year. We're going to have our all hands meeting. That is not building that trust. It is building disparate situations. And it doesn't have to be, we're going camping together. It doesn't have to be something extraordinary, but it just needs to be something that invokes a new form of sharing, a new story, and you actually build stronger trust that way.
If you enjoy getting leadership and career advice and trying to figure out how to future-proof your organization, you are not going to want to miss heading over and subscribing to my Substack. which you can do by going to greatleadership.substack.com. We have a community there of tens of thousands of people from around the world, and it's where I share my latest thinking, my best ideas, exclusive interviews with CEOs, in-depth articles and insights that I share, and leadership hacks from some of the world's top leaders and best-selling authors. So if you want to really step up your leadership game, excel in your career, head over to greatleadership.substack.com. You are not going to want to miss this opportunity. And I actually think some level of conflict is also good. There are some,
for sure.
Like there are some people, some couples that say, "Oh yeah, we never argue," and I'm like, I don't trust,
Really?
right? Like that, or friends that, "Oh yeah, I never argue with my friends." I'm like, I'm all for healthy debate and healthy argument, as long as it's not like I'm going to kill you, but healthy
Yeah,
debate.
you're right. It's got to be constructive.
Yeah, I don't view conflict as necessarily a bad thing. And I think the same thing is true inside of an organization. It's okay to have conflict with your leader. It's okay to have conflict within your team. If you're, of course, being respectful, you're going to a mutual goal that you both have, you're not antagonizing each other. And I think a lot of people shy away from that, but healthy debate and conversation and open dialogue, I think, is huge for trust, because at least what I've experienced is whenever one of these conflicts arise, whoever it's with, after the conflict is over and there's a resolution, the bond becomes even stronger. But if you never have that conflict and you never have those debates and conversations, it's only so strong that the bond can get. Like it reminds me of there was a scene in one of the Matrix movies where did you ever see the Matrix movies?
Yeah. The original. Yeah.
Yes. There's a scene in one of the, I don't know if it was number 1 or 2, but Neo is going into the door. He opens the door, and as soon as he opens the door, I think it was the key master or whatever, the guy that holds all the keys, he says hello, and then all of a sudden he just starts like wailing at him, like trying to beat him up. And Neo is like, "What the hell, dude? Like, we're on the same side. Why are you beating me up?" And he says, "Well, you never know somebody until you fight them. Like, you never truly know somebody until you fight them." And I love that quote, because it's kind of like you never truly know somebody until you get into some sort of a conflict or a debate. Or
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I think a leader needs to break the ice on this too. I had a personal experience around this. We were talking about competence versus EQ before. My same colleague, Patty, who I mentioned earlier, we did one retreat with my company where it was, I think they call it wilderness. There was a term, I can't remember now, but basically you're put in the wilderness, you don't know where you are, and they put a red flag out, and your job is to find it. And we had split into 2 teams with 2 different red flags, and they mark them, and whoever finds the flags and returns to safety the quickest kind of wins. And so we went out, we got the red flag, we hustled back, we got back, we had the flag, and I'm like, we won. And the guide said, "You grabbed the wrong red flag. You grabbed the other team's one." And Patty says, "Yeah, I know." And I'm like, "Why didn't you say anything?" She goes, "Mike, you were so confident it's the right flag. I started questioning myself." I think what a great leader needs to do is say, "What don't I see? Where am I wrong? I'm sure I'm messing up somewhere. I can't see. I'm wearing blinders. Help me out."
Yeah.
You actually need to invite in that conflict, because we still have this structure of, if you're the leader or the employer, if I challenge you, the risk is I might lose my job.
Yep.
So great leaders invite in that conflict and that questioning, and reduce that authority of it's my way or the highway.
I want to spend the last few minutes before we get into the Leader's Toolkit section talking about the model that you have in the book, FASO, Fit, Ability, Safety, and Ownership. And if we have time to get into why you tell people to hire slow and fire slower. So let's talk about that model a little bit. So what is FASO? And maybe you can walk us through those 4 elements. We could spend maybe 1 or 2 minutes on each one. So why don't we start off with FIT?
FIT, yeah. So I'll kind of give you the counterpoint. The traditional approach to employment follows a pyramid structure: authority up top, the president or whatever, C-suite, however you define it. But it's a pyramid structure, and it's based upon the control and command model. Yeah. Command gets sent down. It's what we're doing. Control, feedback comes up, and it's kind of like the telephone game. It's definitely imperfect. The hiring practice around that struggled, though, because we say, "Oh, I need define the role. I need a receptionist." And receptionist's got to be great at answering the phone and greeting walking customers, but also doing data entry and invoicing. We have these 15 tasks they do. And we try to match the talent that people are considering to the title of receptionist. And rarely do we find someone that can fit all of them. Maybe they're wonderfully socially, but they're not great at the data component or something. And we're making decisions around these silos. So what we do in FIT, the observation was, don't match talent to titles, match talent to tasks. So we break our organizations and strip out the titles and have all the individual tasks. And you may find that person who's great at greeting is also great at front level sales or farming, as they say in the sales component. And now you have people bleeding through the traditional siloed titles. So that's a far better model. A structure goes from a pyramid structure to a web-like structure where there's this kind of crossover and stuff. It's a much more flexible, stronger business.
Okay.
So that's FIT. Okay. Ability. There are 3 forms of ability that we need to consider when hiring. Most companies consider 1 or 2. Almost none of them consider the last element, which is the biggest. So the 3 abilities are experiential ability. What I've done in the past is indicative of the future. It's reflected through a resume, and usually is not that great of an indicator. So businesses have elevated to considering innate ability. That's internal wiring. And we use tools like Enneagram or Myers-Briggs or StrengthsFinder. There's amazing tools out there that help you identify that. But the biggest ability that almost no one's considering, and it's the most important, is potential ability. Potential is the right person, this person, put in the right environment, what could they become? So that's what we want to look at. The question, of course, is how we do it. And we can dig deep into that in a bit. But I'll give you a tip of one company that's doing such a great job here, and it's Home Depot. The next time you see Home Depot build a birdhouse workshop, that is actually a recruiting platform looking for potential. So you and I go there, and other parents and folks go there, and you start building a birdhouse. What they're observing is people's curiosity, interest, their desire, how much they want to learn new stuff. Are they asking questions? Ultimately, thirst. They love this. The people who show desire and thirst have the most potential. People who excel at something can't stop doing it. So they have a person observing. And if you show desire and thirst in the birdhouse workshop, they tap you on the shoulder saying, gosh, you really are good at this. You're very helpful to the other parents. You ever consider working at Home Depot? You're the exact type of person we're looking for.
Interesting.
So that's the concept of ability. And we need to remove the traditional interviewing process, which focuses on experience and maybe innate, and start doing a different experience that exploits or demonstrates potential.
Yeah.
The next part is safety. Safety is an environment where, simply said, it needs to be safe for us to perform at the highest levels. If I feel physically threatened when I'm working, I can't work. So there's different degrees of safety. Physical is the foundational level. And even a business like mine, we don't manufacture anything. We're a knowledge worker. We're producing books and stuff. We ran a survey here. People felt physically unsafe. I'm like, what? We have an alley that goes behind our building to the parking lot, and it's pitch black. And when people go to get their car, they're walking in a dark black alley. They felt unsafe, which meant sunsets at 6 o'clock in the afternoon here. Starting at 2 or 3, they're starting to think, oh my God, I have to leave for work in an unsafe space. We just put string lights up. It resolved that. But there's other layers of safety. There's relational safety, emotional safety. If leaders can break the ice, if we expose the warts on ourselves, don't go grandiose here. You got to comfortably let it out. But if you share the truth of yourself, people share the truth of themselves and feel more comfortable. The other kind of cool insight was financial safety. People need to feel financially secure. They need to be paid appropriately and adequately. There's no question about that. But the biggest insight was open books. Open book financial management reveals to your colleagues the health of the organization, which gives them a sense of stability and understanding. So when I understand the finances of the business, I feel more secure in my role because I understand what the business is doing. So that was a big insight.
And the last one we have is ownership.
Ownership. We talked about that already. There's legal ownership or psychological ownership.
Okay,
With
so
those
we touched
3
on that one.
techniques we need to deploy.
Okay.
Yep.
So maybe one last thing before we get to the Leader's Toolkit thing, and that is this concept of hire slow and fire slower. So a lot of people have heard very different. We've heard hire fast and fire fast. We've heard hire slow and fire fast, all sorts of combinations. But we've never heard of hire slow and also fire slower. So what's the rationale behind that?
Yeah. hire slow, and maybe in the workshop we'll dig into this, is our goal is to match the potential, find people with the most potential. I've concluded after all this research, I spent 5 years researching this, I identified that every human being on this planet is an A player, and it's not where I thought I'd go. I've heard 5% of the community is A players, 10% are A players. Every human being is an A player as long as they're matched to the opportunity that they desire. So you match the right person to the right role, of course they're going to perform well. Most businesses don't have a plethora of opportunity. We have a very narrow thing. So not everyone's going to be an A player for us, but we have to understand everyone's an A player. When we go through this process, and we'll talk about in the workshop, of identifying the people that have the best match to us, if we hire slowly in that regard and find the best match, when it comes to a consideration of termination, most people say, well, they're not working out, I'm going to fire them. There's got to be something internally that's not working. Because if you hired someone that's a fit, but it's not working out, there's probably an impedance. We need to go through these exploratory stages and say, why isn't this person not performing the way we expected? And ultimately, it may be something that is irrevocable, and it has to result in termination or a layoff. But in many cases, I found when businesses take the time to figure out what the impedance is, they can convert someone who's performing like a C into an A.
So you mentioned the workshop and the interviews. So let's talk about that a little bit and transition to the Leaders Toolkit section. And you talk about in the book, and we talked about this before I hit record, the idea of getting rid of interviewing employees. And that might come as a big shock to people. I mean, I've certainly interviewed a lot of people. I'm sure everybody who's listened and watching this has gone through that process. Why do you think we should be getting rid of that? And what do we replace that with instead? Alrighty, everybody, my conversation with Mike continues. And in this bonus episode, we're going to be talking about why Mike says you should be getting rid of your employee interviews and switching to something called workshops instead. And we're going to dive deep into what a workshop is, why traditional employee interviews are not great, and we'll talk about some of the strategic and tactical aspects of how to conduct a workshop. And he's also going to give a couple examples of what companies have done, how they've done it, and what those results were. This is only available for subscribers of Great Leadership Plus on Apple Podcasts. And when you subscribe, you'll get access to one of these bonus episodes every single week, as well as ad-free listening. Of course, I also invite you to join our community, greatleadership.substack.com/GL podcast. If you want to get 20% off your subscription, exclusively available to podcast listeners. If for some reason you can't remember that URL, just email me, jacob@thefutureorganization.com. And I just want to give a big thank you to everybody who's been ordering and reviewing my book. It's been doing very well, so thank you. And if you want to learn more about that, head to leadwithvulnerability.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, then please send it to somebody who you would like to see become a better leader. I'll see all of you next week.